Yes, you are listening to the Ready, Set, Retire radio podcast with Steve Anzoni. My name is Jessica Forkel. Get more details on the website at fairwayfinancial.net. You know, a lot of folks saying prepare for a possible 10% correction coming our way. And it got me thinking here that if these events probably going to happen all throughout your retirement years, maybe even through your continuing working years. But at the end of the day, if this puts a pit in your stomach now, how are you going to feel in retirement? And then on top of that, Steve, how can you take that pit in our stomach away from us?
Well, look, this is a reminder that everything isn't always rosy in the market. We all got spoiled a third of the way through this year. The market started going up and everyone thought, I'm a genius. And, you know, here I am in the market making all kinds of money. And this is just normal, all right? It's course of business. And this is a stark reminder that you should never, ever have all your eggs in one basket. It's really that simple. I know it sounds like it's common sense, but the real challenge is while we're working, the one basket that's the easiest for us to do is, of course, our 401k, right, Jess? I mean, you take the money out of the paycheck, you don't see it, it goes in there, it's great. And I agree, it is a good place to put a majority of your retirement monies. But as you inch closer to retirement, it's time to say, okay, I've got a plan for retirement income, not a pile of money that is up and down and up and down. I have to prepare to replace my paycheck because that is the bottom line. That's what allows you to get retired and stay retired, is to replace the paycheck. And I mean permanently. I don't mean let me just take systematic withdrawals out of my pile of money to replace it, because that formula can be very dangerous, as we saw earlier this week, and we saw in 22, we saw in 08, we saw, we've seen it multiple times. So my advice is be logical about what's going on. Don't get overly emotional about it, because if you do, you're going to make the wrong decisions about things. You're going to panic. You're going to sell at the wrong time. You're going to make mistakes.
Right.
And you need to think logically. And this could be a nice wake-up call to remind you to not have all the money there, that it's not always going to be rosy. You need to take a piece and create a paycheck for life. And I hope that makes sense to most of my listeners out there. I think it does. It makes sense to me because I've done pieces of that for myself and a lot of that for my customers. Matter of fact, you just talked about going to Columbo's and celebrating retirement. I just did that with a customer of mine.
Nice.
We went down there, had a nice lunch, and, I'm not going to lie, we threw a little old-fashioned in there, but hey, that's what you do.
Yeah, let me ask you this. I mean, of course, we all know that it's about being prepared to replace that paycheck, not putting all your eggs in one basket. But, the basket that is involved in the market, it's important to know your risk and reward. And then especially in times like this, also looking at the time ahead of you, right? Do you have time to make up for any losses, or are you too close to that finish line? That leads me to talking about, is it time to get defensive? And I want you to respond to what Steve Sosnick from CNBC has to say. Steve, here he is.
Right now, you want something that's a bit recession-proof, because the bond market, with the moves that we're seeing, they're screaming at us right now to tell us that they think we're looking at a recession. So this sort of bodes for a bit more of a defensive posture until we can really see if this is a temporary storm or bumpy landing, so to speak, or if it is indeed a harder landing.
So what are your thoughts on this, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. What he's saying is, look, you got to start looking at income planning, essentially, is what he's saying. And again, it all goes back to just don't have everything in one place, and then you won't panic. Let's say you've got, I'm just going to use a round number, $1 million, all right? And let's say that all of it is in the market, which for most people it is if they're in their 60s and maybe at the tail end of working. You're going to see flips like this in the market. You're going to see the market go up, unbelievable, which we've seen it, and you're going to see it go down, unbelievably, which we've seen in 22. Although this week it had a one-day, the Dow lost over 1,000 points in a day. That's pretty severe. But here's the thing. If you had, I'm just going to use, again, a round number, let's say 350,000 of that money in a plan that was growing at a guaranteed set rate, and let's just use 8. I know everyone thinks 8 is high, but it's not. these lifetime guaranteed income annuities, a lot of them are growing at more than 8% a year guaranteed. But the real key to that product is when you turn the income on, you're essentially turning on a personal pension plan, if you will, because that check will never, ever run out for you and or your spouse. So you're creating a lifetime check with a piece of your retirement plan. And if you think about it, isn't that why you saved all that money? I mean, it wasn't to just look at a pretty statement with a circle on it and look at all my pies and look at how diversified I am. Well, the fact is, you're not really that diversified if all your money is in the market and in bonds, as he pointed out. And we got a hard lesson there a few years ago on just how volatile bonds can be. And by the way, the banks and the insurance companies got a hard lesson on how volatile inflation, what it can do to bonds. So we saw that. So all I'm saying is, doesn't it make sense to take a piece of your hard-earned money and create another source of guaranteed income similar to Social Security? Oh, and by the way, if you're married, hopefully you know this by now, but when one spouse passes away, one of the Social Security checks goes away. So you lose, fortunately, the lower of the two checks, but you still lose a significant amount of income. With these guaranteed lifetime income annuities, the check remains the same. So you won't suffer a loss in income. But between those two pieces, usually for most people, it's a high enough amount to keep them right where they are, keep their standard of living right where it is, and allow that volatility, if you will, in the market to do its course, to run its course. That's what it does. But it won't freak you out as much as having all your money in that pile. I mean, does that make sense, Jess?
Yeah, I'm following you.
And that's all I'm trying to educate people is to say, look, stop following that shiny object and chasing that. What you need to chase is the paycheck, because that essentially is the shiny object, although it's not as cool. It doesn't look as nice, right? It's not a 27-page confuse you statement. It's literally... It's
simple and easy to read and understand.
It's a ledger that is in concrete. It's a contract. So even if... Well, let's say interest rates went back to a few years ago. God, I hope they don't. But let's say they did, right? Even if that happened, the contract can't be changed. It's going to stay at the high interest rates that we locked in today. And, by the way, high payout rates. And when I'm saying payout rates, I mean, picture a pile of money guaranteed to be paid out at like 7.25, 7.5, 7.7, depending on your age. And the older you are when you start the check, the higher the payout rate. But think about what I just said, right? Where everyone knows that safe money withdrawal rate that the investment industry uses of, say, roughly 4%. I mean, I just said 4, didn't I? These things are paying out at 7.5, right? 7 7/8, whatever it is. Way more than that. And they're guaranteeing the check for life. We all need income, Jess. So the bottom line is most of us have done a pretty good job out there saving. We've done a good job. But now what we need to do is to start looking at the pile of money as a source of income and not just a pile of money. So that's what I'm getting at. So give us a call at 508-552-3230. And if what I'm saying makes any sense, let's talk about it. At least get some numbers so you know exactly what you can do for income planning and retirement, okay? Because that's what you need to do, is to find out these numbers to see if it makes sense for you. They're the highest they've been since I've been in business, and I've been in business a long time. The other thing you can do is visit the website at fairwayfinancial.net, and there's a tab up there you can click, and you can even, book an appointment right there online. You're going to see my calendar and my schedule, and boom, you just click it.
Simple and easy.
Chat. Yeah, we can meet. You can come to the office in Hyannis, and it's a great spot. If you're not on the Cape, that's cool. We can talk We can meet off Cape. I happen to live in South Plymouth. So, I've met people at their homes off Cape. I've met people at, of course, Dunkin's, which is the,
The staple.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not kidding. There's this one Dunkin's in Middleborough at the Rotary. And for you folks off Cape, you know what I'm talking about. This place literally has a couch, a recliner, and a fireplace.
Nice.
Okay? When I say I feel like I'm at home when I go in there, it's crazy. But I've met a lot of people in there and showed them a lot of great ideas. So make a call. Unfortunately, we can't reach through the radio and say, hey, let's go.
Hey, you, get it together.
Yeah.
There was a new study that says 61% of retirees would rather preserve their money than grow it. The study also found 65% wanted guaranteed income for life. 69% reported discussing loss prevention with their advisor. So does the fear of losing money work against some people to the point that really they can't even grow their money enough to fund that long retirement?
Yeah, sometimes it does, especially when you have these events that happen in the market that are so publicized these days, thanks to social media. But yeah, so anytime you have a traumatic event, whether it's down 20 or down 15 for the day, it does get people thinking, oh my God, I need to protect what I got. I'm close to retirement. I'm not going to be able to save as much. And I still have customers who want to save money every month in their retirement plan while they're retired.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And I'm like, I know you've been accustomed to doing that for 30, 40 years, but you don't have to worry about that now. Matter of fact, you could take whatever extra money you have and either plunk it into your fund bucket for travel, or you can help out your kids and grandkids with some college aid and stuff like that. And I try to just help them say, hey, we're okay because you've done the right planning and you've got a retirement income plan along with an inflation hedge fund. So that's the secret, is to having the multiple buckets. And we didn't talk about the book much this show, but the book I wrote was designed to help people to understand that just creating buckets of money makes sense. And I gave a lot of examples of married couples, singles, right, all that stuff, and how I help them create these buckets for income and for growth. So, yeah, there is a challenge, although, let's face it, inflation has helped conservative people with their savings because they're getting 5% on CDs. Now, of course, depending on who you believe out there, where inflation is at, it's either 7 or 8 or 15 if you're an extremist, but it's somewhere up around the 7-8% range. So theoretically, if you're earning 5 and inflation's at 7, you're still losing, right, to inflation, even though you don't feel like you're losing because you're making 5. And a few years ago, you were lucky to get 0.1. So it's just crazy in a blink of an eye how quickly
Things
the
can
economy
change.
has turned. Never happened like that, Jess. It felt like overnight interest rates went from 0.1 to 5 on a CD.
But just to play, devil's advocate here, look, inflation is a record high, right? We know taxes are on the rise. My gosh, this current election, a lot of folks concerned the economy, the market is going to go to, hell in a handbasket. So lots of folks concerned, holding even more closer to their chest. How do you navigate those waters of folks that are just terrified right now?
Yeah, we do get a lot of those calls because obviously the network that we're on is a conservative network, right? Talk radio. And so we do have a lot of people who are concerned with what's going on. And, President Biden stepped down. So that was kind of a shock to a lot of people. And now you have Kamala Harris as the front runner. As a matter of fact, the other day, she just got confirmed as the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, earlier this week she selected Tim Walz as her VP. He's from Minnesota. So we're going to see how that's shaping up, what promises they're going to make versus the promises Trump and Vance are going to make. So we can't control any of that.
It's in the media, and so it's on people's brains, and they see it, they read it, and of course, when they think of Trump, typically they think of lower taxes, and they're not wrong because he did create the lowest tax brackets, at least on the federal side, that we've seen in over 25, 30 years. And that is a fact. and they are due to sunset, which means go away the end of 2025. So that's on a lot of people's brains right now, is they're looking at that, and they're looking at opportunities today just to do a lot of Roth conversions. Matter of fact, I just talked with a client who has a lot of IRAs, and they're thinking, I know I'm going to pay a lot of taxes to convert a lot of these, but it might make sense to convert them now at where I'm at, because in the future, it's most likely going to be higher. And that is a calculated guess that you're trying to do there. But I do like control, and I do love tax-free. It is a beautiful thing. And today, with all that's going on for those risk-averse people, what an opportunity to lock in payout rates at over 7.5. I mean, what is wrong with that? And it's a contract that can't be undone by the company who issues it, because it's in writing. And so it is a fascinating opportunity to create a high level of cash flow when you're going to need it in the near future, or whether it's 5 years out, whatever it is. It is an amazing opportunity, and we have gotten more calls, I think, in the last 6 months than probably the last 2 years, Jess. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's been that crazy, and it should be, because this is a unique opportunity. And let me tell you something. Insurance companies, they're not stupid, okay? We all know this because we all see the towers they build. I mean, they make money, all right? And I'm fine with that as long as they're doing, a decent job for my clients. And right now, they're out there looking at interest rates and thinking these things are coming down. I mean, the Feds stunned everybody recently and didn't make a change, but they're going to real soon. And the insurance companies already know this. They're bracing for it, and they are fighting each other for business like I have never seen in the past. It's crazy, and it's great for the consumer. It really is. It's awesome. And because they know that this party is going to be over probably, and my professional guess is within a month, that they're going to have all the cash they wanted to bring in up until that point. And then they're going to turn the party lights off and go back to, whatever the regular rates are, and not incentivize anybody like they are right now. So this is, and I know it's the middle of summer. I get it. I'm here. I get it. But you owe it to yourself and your spouse to at least call and find out about these things. It's not that hard to do. I can, we have this internet. I can send you the proposal. I've done this with so many people. Just say, look, can you just look at the numbers? And when you catch your breath, call me back and I will explain them. And they're unbelievable. They're like, really? Is this true? Is this going to be here? And I'm like, yeah, that's a guaranteed rate you're getting and a guaranteed payout. So there's no better time. I mean, I'm on my stool right now, Jess.
I see that. Yeah.
There is no better time than to call right now. Let's meet. Let's talk. Let me get you the information. Because if you try to get it yourself, I'm telling you right now, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get confused. And it's going to cause you to stop looking. Yeah. Let me do all the legwork, because this is what I do. I will gladly email you the information so you can see it, you can have it, and you can plan accordingly. So 508-552-3230. That's 508-552-3230, or the website, fairwayfinancial.net. And we'd be happy to chat with you or meet with you here in the office, or if you're off Cape, I have a satellite office at my attorney's office in Plymouth. Be happy to meet you there, too.
Get more details on the website, fairwayfinancial.net. That's fairwayfinancial.net.
Steve Anzoni is a licensed insurance provider by the Division of Insurance and is not registered as an investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Steve Anzoni, Massachusetts Insurance License 3851053. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Anzoni is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Anzoni is licensed in your state, please call 508-398-3337.